Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. And today we have a very interesting lineup. In fact, we have two guests who will be coming and talking to us about various business issues. So stay tuned, friends. And also, if you want to join us with your comments, with your camera and microphone, you can follow the link which is given in the description below. And you can join us live with your photograph, your voice live into our show. As you know, this is a live show. And so let's begin. I think the first news that we want to talk about is a very important news, and this is coming from the land of China. And I think before I start giving you the details of this information, it's very important for us to also understand that while India is doing everything to strengthen its global position and also making sure that the geopolitical influence of India is also enforced. Prime Minister Modi himself has traveled and made a fantastic outreach to rest of the world, where a lot of people were now thinking about India in a different way. So while we are doing that in terms of business, there is a lot of focus on bringing the position of India to much higher level, especially in terms of doing business. And also, Indian government has signed up a very historic agreement with UK government, where they are talking about increasing the trade between two nations, which is India and UK, to $1 billion by 2030. While all these things are good, these are very good initiative, but I think we should also keep a track of what China is doing in this region, because none of this information has been readily provided in the media channels, and therefore I thought I will bring it to people who are watching our show regularly. We are coming every day, and this important news is about the China has backed a forum called RCEP, which is having about 15 Southeastern Asian countries, and all these major countries, like all the countries that you can think of, 15 of them. And their total net worth in terms of trade is going to reach something like almost like five their total strength is 5.2 trillion US dollars. So you can imagine, I mean, here we are talking about signing up with UK about a billion in next 10 years, but this group, their net worth itself is 5.2 trillion dollars globally. That's the kind of business this RCEP do, and China is one of the main country in this group. And the total population within these country is roughly about 2.2 billion people, and majority of these people are based in China, as you can you can very well logically think about it, the China being the largest most uh, goods producing country in this whole group. But I think this RCEP is about trade. Their headquarter is in Southeast Asia, and they are also having a tie-up with ASEAN countries, and they are basically trying to improve their trade deficit, and they want to increase cooperation. They want to increase the total revenue increase for every member country, which is like 15 countries, by about $512 billion by 2030 every year. So here we in India have no idea. I mean, if some of us may be having idea who are keeping track, but it is not publicized for the general public. None of the channels are picking this up, that there is a business entity called RCEP right in our neighborhood. We are talking about huge cooperation among themselves. And to do all this, I mean, this should not remain on the paper. They are actually implementing that also. They actually signed up this agreement in 2020, and from 1st January they want to kickstart this whole initiative. And when we say that they want to kickstart the initiative, is it requires a lot of training of people. um, there could be import export policy revision. There could be new way of providing import duties on different goods and services which are coming flowing between these countries. And to do that, it's not possible to do it on paper. Again, to do this activity, you have to have some sort of a system. So the news right now is that the Chinese have finished implementing the system, which is new system, which will create the ecosystem for better business ties between 15 RCEP signatories in Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia, and Asia Pacific. And they have finished, and they have also trained nearly 160,000 entities. And when I talk about entities, these are business houses based in China. They have trained the owners of various businesses. They have sensitized people about this activity that it is going to start from 2nd of January 2022. And they've also trained the import and export officers, basically the people who are going to control the fee structure of import and export. So all this is being done keeping in mind the increase in business, more business cooperation among the member countries, which are the primarily ASEAN countries. And you can see the impact of this, because this is a huge thing. It's extremely big right in our neighborhood. While the Indians keep talking about cooperation, but I think they have taken to a totally different level altogether, where they have finished training, they have finished implementation of the software solution, they have finished making policies, and now this whole stream of business is going to go live on a new system between ASEAN countries from 2022 January itself. So hardly a month away. So these things are happening, and I think we in India must be aware that while the India is also increasing its influence, but I think there are other things happening, and we should be cognizant of the fact that the China is not sitting lying down. And on one side, they are building a pressure on LAC on India, and there will be a business pressure coming in from the ASEAN countries in years to come. So we need to learn from this. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to get our supply chain in shape. We need to make sure that we don't stop at signing up a £1 billion contract with UK. We have to look at other countries also. We should also start doing some business activities. We should also start increasing the index of ease of doing business globally. I think we should start doing that. I think one of the things that we must do as India is that when it comes to micro payment, I think we should tie up the micro payment applications across Southeast Asia countries, Asian countries, because there are a lot of Indians based in Malaysia, there are a lot of Indians based in Indonesia, Singapore, and all these Indians have their entities based out of India, mainland India. So, but the biggest problem for import and export in India is that there is a withholding tax, and there is a lot of income tax on money being sent outside India. So I think when it comes to capital investment, this is okay. I think this policy works. But then when it comes to services, then it becomes very, very non-user friendly, where people are not able to make payment out of India. Receiving money into India is fine. There is no issue with that. But making a payment outside India is a bit of a challenge. So I think this is something which we should be aware, we should be cognizant of the fact that the influence of Chinese just will not disappear just like that. They are also ensuring to make sure that their supply chain is in order, and hence this agreement which is going to come up next year, it's going to change their business association among the 15 signatory countries of Southeast Asia. So I think, friends, moving on, the next session is with an expert who is joining us from UK, and the session is with Mr. Mike Bradley, who's a group CSO of ScaleUpArena, and he is going to enlighten us about optimizing global growth post pandemic. So let's welcome Mike into the show. Hello, Mike. How are you doing?
Hi, Chandra. Yes, I'm very good, thank you. And yourself?
Doing good, and you're looking good as usual. And you
Well,
are
I
now
try my best.
absolutely you're now live, and a lot of people are watching. So, viewers, in case you have a question about what we are discussing, you can also join live, and your camera and your voice will come live on our show, and we can address you. We can address you. You can have any question. You can join the discussion with Mike also. So, Mike, today's discussion is about the optimizing the growth post pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
When you say uh, growth post pandemic, obviously there are some changes which has happened to the business. There are permanent changes which has happened. So what is so specific that we will have to change as business people to stay there, Mike?
Sure. Well, I think one of the most important changes, of course, is lack of travel. We historically have travelled a lot. I think potentially unnecessarily, and that's obviously for small organisations has incurred incredible amount of costs. However, with the pandemic, we've all had to reevaluate how we do our business, how we trade, where we trade, and so I think one of the biggest changes is now that we have to embrace this new world of working virtually more often, less face to face, but still making building those relationships that we would traditionally have done in a face to face way, but build those initially virtually, and then hopefully at points in the future we are able to meet face to face and develop those. And I think that's so. I think the virtual side is one of the changes. I think the second one is it's really changing the approach that we have in terms of um, the way we work. Where traditionally people would want to open a subsidiary maybe in an international country and run that themselves, but I think the new model lends itself better to working in conjunction with local organisations. So having more of a localized base, because that way local people can work with local organizations, but maybe in conjunction with international suppliers.
Mike, before you joined our show today, I was informing viewers about a new agreement pioneered by China among the ASEAN countries, and there are 15 other signatories to this agreement called RCEP, and their targets are huge. I mean, if you look at, they are almost like $5.2 trillion increase by having this agreement. It's a huge sum of money they are sitting on, and by 20,
Mm,
each of these member countries will increase their revenue, import and export revenue by 502 billion on an average. So it's a huge money that these countries are talking about, and obviously Chinese is driving this because they are the main country. Uh, Apart
hmm
from these 15 countries, the total population which covers this agreement is 2.2 billion people of Earth. So obviously, China is the main entity here, which is having a population of than 1.5 billion. So when we are
Sure.
talking about post-pandemic, and there are agreements coming up like this to improve economic situation post-pandemic, what is that these entries are doing? I mean, for example, in India also we are doing a lot as a government, but it is not as big as what these guys are doing. The RCEP guys are doing, the ASEAN countries are doing. I mean, the numbers are mind-boggling.
hmm
What we should
Yep.
do as countries, as UK, as India, as US, what is that we should do to counter this economic opportunity?
Well, I think to some extent we've already had across a lot of the what you would call the Commonwealth nations, 53 nations. We've had friendly trading agreements between sovereign states. So I think that is a very positive counter to that, is that we've already got historical links, we've already got trading relationships. What we have to do is ensure we optimize those. And of course, you know, post us leaving the European Union, the UK, I think that has opened up the ability to trade more openly across the English speaking world, if you like, which represents actually 2.2 billion people across the planet. So, what obviously China's a big, um, obviously a big number, and India is a comparative population. But India, as you well know, India and the UK have got good historical links, trading links. I can only see that growing. Every day at the moment, we're hearing about other trade agreements, and we're becoming part of other international arrangements. We are trying to streamline and optimize our growth between us across the globe. So I think on a national level, I think things are happening. Of course, on the ground, what has to happen is the individual companies have to be able to set up and trade easily. And I think as I came in, there was somebody talking about how there's the ability to transfer currency, etc. These sort of things have to be streamlined. These are areas that we can't rely on the traditional historical models. We have to utilize the we have to utilize new mechanisms for trading between ourselves, and ultimately, whilst the governments can oil the wheels of international trade, it's actually going to be the companies that have to implement it. And I think there we have to ensure that we distinguish between multinationals and also the SMEs, because the way that multinationals trade is completely different to the way SMEs trade. Because multinationals obviously have a large presence, massive marketing budgets, people on the ground, subsidiaries, etc. So that's a very different situation for most SMEs, which is why, as I said, on the, the the best way I believe for SMEs to work within this framework is obviously to have profile and presence within the local government, within the local national governments, so that the wheels can be oiled for SMEs to trade internationally, not just the multinationals. Secondly, I think it means that we have to ensure that these that we optimize the use of virtual technology like we are today. As you well know, you're in India and I'm in the UK. We're using virtual communication to communicate across the world in a cost-effective and efficient manner, time-wise and resource-wise. But also that SMEs have to recognise that in order to make these things work, because of the logistical differences between our countries and the taxation systems and the way that companies are set up and run, the model moving forward has to be one which, for particularly in the SME market, to say, actually, let's work through local resellers, local agents, local partnerships, because we're not going to be traveling the world so much, I don't believe. But what we are going to be doing is we're going to be able to interact with each other, promote the supply of each other's programs and goods, be that services or product. And we can do that efficiently and effectively, particularly post-pandemic, which we couldn't before. So I think there's, those three components to me are interesting, exciting, and those are the ways that we counter these mega agreements. Of course, the other thing we have in our favour is that we have open societies, our internet access is easier. In theory, our networks are open, maybe not as not as punchy bandwidth as we would like, but we can actually interact with each other globally very easily, which is a major benefit for those of us across the English-speaking world. And of course, the language helps. Nothing to do with the UK. I think it's more to do with the States, that everybody sort of speaks a pseudo English. But that also helps us. We've got language in our favour. We've got open networks and communication in our favour. We've got virtual communication in our favour, and we've got governments that recognise the potential of trading together internationally.
Yes, I think I fully second you on this one. And you actually raised a very important point about the SMEs. And when you say SMEs, it's basically people who are below 1,000 employees, or about, if you look at India, then the classification is totally different. It is uh, up to 1,000 to 2,000 in SMEs. So if you look at the global standard, the SME of India will be much larger company. But in India, they are SMEs, they are small medium enterprises. So when it SME, I think there is always a shortage of funds, shortage of markets, shortage of skilled labor, attract skilled labor, etc. These are the common problems across the world, not only in India but everywhere else. So in the paradigm, because we are discussing in this session about what do we do post pandemic in the changing paradigm, how the SMEs collaborate with each other, and what is the role government has to play to help specifically the SME segment.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think we have to ensure that the government does recognise the SME segment. And that isn't always a given, because the biggest numbers, the biggest employers are the multinationals, so they always seem to get the most attention. But the future of most global economies is the small to medium enterprises, and be they micro businesses right the way through to the larger SMEs. So I think it's very important that there are local organisations that are representing SMEs, and I suppose there's like the chambers of commerce, but there's also needs to be, I believe, sector-based groups that are representing the interest of the sectors to grow in particular markets, be pharmaceutical, be, I don't know, meditech, be cybersecurity, etc. These different groups need to have interaction and interface and connection into government. I believe that the government then needs to recognise that the potential for growth, and we all know about things like scale-ups, which are the rapid growth companies that are, particularly in the UK, they are the ones that are doing the bulk of the revenue in the SME sector. They are the biggest employers, the recruiters, but below the scale-ups, which are traditionally, I think it's 3 years of 20% year-on-year growth, with an employee count of 10 or 20 at the start of the process. But beneath that are the group of companies that I would call the emerge-ups. These are the ones that are expanding, they've got a proven model, they've got maybe a product that is already selling in the local market. And so what we have to do is make it easier for those organizations to trade internationally. And of course, that's what the whole emphasis of ScaleUpArena was all about, is to provide an environment which enables those sort of companies, the emerge-ups, the growing SMEs, to access funding, be it debt or equity-based, access maybe in acquisitions. We've got an M&A boutique as part of our ScaleUpArena, which means that we can help companies to source acquisitions in international markets, quite an effective way to grow. Also accessing partners, accessing resellers. As you know, my background itself is developing partnerships on an international level. That's something that I think SMEs have to take on board and need support with. It's not a short-term win in most cases. It's a medium to long-term route to success. There's also joint venturing and partnering with other strategic brands into countries where maybe the local new country has a large presence in the right sector or in the right size of organizations. So you strike up a relationship to get your product out through to them. And then we've got the ability to have people showcasing their solutions and services through a marketplace, which means that anybody on the internet, outside of China, of course, because they can't see it, but outside of China, anybody can see these solutions and find out information and contact people. Another big area, I think, if you're trying to develop international markets and partners, is education. And it's not just about developing the right skills. This is about developing the market, because particularly if you're coming to market, and we're all living in a dynamic product environment, but if you're coming to market with a new style product, the market may not even know that they have a need for your product until you educate them about it. So there's an education piece. So that's the ability to run maybe a webinar or briefing sessions, invite people along on an international basis virtually to find out about these new solutions. That could be your solution going into a market that has a unique proposition, but then doing this in an efficient way using webinars and briefings to let people know this product is out here and this is why you need to be taking it into your local market and how you can optimize the opportunity. And then finally, there are a whole plethora of experts who've been in the market, got specialist skills, be it tax, be it GDPR, be it cybersecurity, be it manufacturing automation, who are readily available on a subcontracted basis to help organizations in the SME space who maybe can't afford these people on a full-time basis, but could actually utilize their skills on a project basis or a retained basis on a regular basis to enable them to get access to affordable skills to help them optimize the opportunities on an international level. So I think these components are absolutely vital for growth for SMEs. Be interesting to hear what some of the audience think about these things. Obviously, what we run all these different areas that can support growing companies. I actually run an international development course myself that I put together for one of the UK government programs a few years ago. Also, I run at something I call the Executive Therapist Chair, which is a way of brainstorming with the CEOs or boards of directors the strategic approach for growth, which obviously can include the international piece. So, there's lots of things we can do. And I know that you've got a background in international development as well, Chandra. So, hopefully you agree with what I say. And if you don't, I'm sure you do.
Yes, Mike, I fully agree with you. I think these are the things that individually people will need to do. They need to get their act together. They need to ensure that we are behaving in a cooperative manner, not in any other way. But I think the framework is very important, because currently, for example, you mentioned about the definition which is prevalent in the UK or probably few Commonwealth countries, but this is not standard, So in order to have a standard practice across the world in SME or large enterprises, small enterprises, so that they start looking at different taxation, different kind of framework, that is missing from our environment. Do you think it's a problem, and the government of the world should get their act together first and make a standard practice across the world, standardization of practice?
Um, yes and no. I think different countries have different demographics. I mean, if you compare India with 1.x billion people with the UK, we've got, I think it's 66 million people. So our demographics are different. And I think that's why our definition of SME is different. because 1,000 people in India is a drop in the ocean. 1,000 people here, and you're a fairly substantial organisation. So I don't think the definition matters. I think the characteristics of the organisation matter. So if and I think this is down to whether it's a multinational, an MNC, whether it's a scale up, whether it's an emerge up, whether it's a micro company. These things are important, and having uh, localized mechanisms for enabling those people to access the services they need is important. So, for example, with ScaleUpArena across the globe, we don't mind whether somebody is an SME in India with 750 people or they're an SME in the UK with 50 people, because they still need access to funding, partnering, M&A, showcasing internationally, education, and service providers. So there's still the same requirement for the actual organizations, but the size might be slightly different. What I think is important is the ability to trade and share different currencies. The taxation system needs to be easier for SMEs, because it's complicated enough as it is. And so I think the differences in the taxation systems around the globe make it tricky for SMEs, particularly the smaller ones, which is why I believe if you're a smaller SME, the solution isn't always open a subsidiary. The solution is quite often work in conjunction with a local partner, because they have the presence already. And then it's a case of providing your solution out through that particular existing resource where they have existing clients, etc. So I think it's very, very important to have the rationale and the premise right for what you're doing, why you're doing it, very clearly establish your credibility and experience. And this would probably be, this is what we've done at home, this is what's worked well, this is how we recommend you work in your local country. Have your proposition correct, your solution, and then identify clearly what the next actions are. So if you're working in conjunction with a existing supplier in a new country, work clearly to identify who are the low-hanging fruit targets within their customer base that could take your solution, and the expertise that's important. So I think that whole defining the process and program is very important, and then getting buy-in at both ends to have a plan of attack, if you like.
Yes, Mike, let's shift our gear and let's remain focused on the post pandemic world. I think we have discussed the regulations and the taxation. I think let's wait and watch what the government do and how they actually get their act together. Um,
Mm.
However, as individuals, what is the business which is going to thrive in next 10 years? Because a lot of people are saying that the hospitality is dead, airlines is dead, tours and travel tourism is dead, hotels are dead, leisure business is dead. So what is that people should be doing in the SME space in next 10 years?
Well, I think very much this has to be based on local markets, which is why, again, I think it's the emerging SMEs in the different markets are the ones who will identify what they need to be doing. What needs to happen in India may not need to be the same thing as happening in the UK or the US or Singapore. But what I do think is going to happen is we've got to recognise that the trading environments are going to be online. They need to be focused on delivering value. They need to be focused on differentiation. It mustn't be a race to the middle, because if you race to the middle, you can guarantee it's not going to last very long. There's a book out there called Uncommon Sense and Common Nonsense. I've always believed in the 80-20 rule, so I tend to think that The uncommon sense is what 20% of people are pursuing. And it's that is going to differentiate your business, your product, your service in the marketplace, rather than following after the common nonsense, which is, of course, what most of the multinationals do. They all try and copy each other to share out the pie of market share. Whereas I think what the SMEs have to do is very clearly focus on what is our differentiation? Why do people buy from us? Why will we retain them? Why will we prevent churn? And the only way you do that, I believe, is by focusing properly on the customer requirement, not getting locked into this whole corporate AAA syndrome, as they call it. I know we've discussed this before, but corporate amnesia, forgetting. But when an organisation gets so big, they forget that the customer makes up the spreadsheet. So they spend all their time looking at the numbers and how many orders and how many people they're losing every month. But actually, what they need to get back to is talking to the customer, which is the second AAA, of course, corporate asphyxiation. They've got so high in the clouds, they've got so big in their own local country that they think, we know what we need to do, we keep doing it. But the day you stop listening to customers, the day you stop listening to your employees, is the day that you're going to actually start to have a problem. So I think whatever it is you're doing, whatever market you're in, whatever product you're selling, you have to keep listening to what the customers are saying, what the customers are wanting, and ultimately keeping the customers happy. Because the most expensive thing in a business, in my view, is the loss of a customer. The easiest thing is to retain a customer and keep a customer retained. So the focus has to be on keeping customers happy and retaining them. Otherwise, all you're doing is replacing the customers you lose every year, and that isn't good news. And the other part of that is, unless you're in a very traditional business, you have to keep adapting what you do to address the continually changing market dynamics. That means your product needs to keep improving. Even if you're in manufacturing, you have to be looking to improve your quality of manufacture, your quality of supply, your ease of service, your reduction of overheads, your increase in productivity. Maybe that means putting in more automation, whether that be a service organization with remote process automation, or whether that be a manufacturing company with putting in manufacturing automation on the factory floor. Whatever you do, you have to keep focusing on improvement of product, improvement of service, and reduction of cost, and through despite increased productivity, doing more with less.
I think, Mike, you speak very nicely about what people should be doing. I think your participation is very, very important for our show. We need a lot of information with regard to importance of R&D, importance of ethics, importance of customer relationship, etc. So we will find future sessions with you where you can talk to our viewers in future. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we went live along with you. And we will keep you posted in case there's somebody asking for help or some advices from you. Thank you so much, Mike.
Lovely. Been a pleasure, Chandra. Take care. Talk to you again soon.
Right, Mike. So you're most welcome to stay on as the show continues, and you can drop off anytime. So thank you so much, Mike. I will catch you next week.
Okay.
So continuing our discussion, the next item on our list is about the WHO. The WHO is approving one of the indigenously developed the COVID vaccination called Covaxin from India, and we want to talk about that. So as you know that the company behind the indigenous Covaxin, which is the Covaxin, it's also known as Covaxin, is it has been given to a lot of Indians, and well, India as a country has too many people, and there was no supply chain across the world, no pharmaceutical company which could fulfill the requirement. They don't have assembly line to produce so many vaccines so that they can fulfill the requirements. And therefore, Covishield, which is the AstraZeneca, was not sufficient for India, and that's why Bharat Biotech developed their uh, indigenous vaccination, which is right here, as you can see here. So this vaccination was administered for Indians, and there are about 10 to 15 countries where this is also given to citizens of those countries. And when people travel across the world, there are bilateral agreements between countries, and only the COVID vaccinated people are allowed to travel or obtain a visa. So, as we call it, the COVID visa is also a reality today. So, people who are able to show certificate that they have been vaccinated using some of these vaccine will be given visa to travel across the country. So, as of now, about 10 to 15 countries are there where the Covaxin is allowed as a vaccine. I mean, if Indians who have been vaccinated using Covaxin will be given a visa to travel to those countries. However, now WHO has approved Bharat Biotech manufactured Covaxin, and in the US, the partner company of Bharat Biotech has also has applied with the government of United States to administer Covaxin in younger children below 18. So that is the process is also on, and WHO has approved the Covaxin across the world. The Indian High Commission, Indian diaspora, Indian companies have gone into a very, very high gear situation, and they are now dealing with various government to make this vaccine available to citizens of the world. So this is something which is new, and it is a very big step. WHO approving Covaxin, and that is why I feel very proud about completely indigenous vaccination being available for India as well as for anyone in the world who wants to procure and get vaccinated using this vaccine. In fact, Bharat Biotech is also coming out with a nasal vaccination process, and the reasoning behind that is that when you have vaccination, it protects your lungs, but when your throat and your nasal cavities are not protected, and therefore when you have a nasal vaccine also given by Bharat Biotech, which is also the nasal version of Covaxin, what you have to do is basically inject like a spray into your nose, and that will protect your throat as well as your nasal cavities against the infection of COVID infection. So you have taken the vaccination, normal vaccination, your lungs are protected, and if you have taken the nasal way of administering the vaccine, your upper bronchia and upper respiratory system is also protected. So all these things are in works by Bharat Biotech, but Covaxin has been approved by WHO, and lot of effort is going on to produce this in good quantity so that the supply of the world can be fulfilled by Bharat Biotech. Bharat is also discussing with various pharmaceutical companies across the world to give this as a on a licensed production so that the same vaccine can be produced in other countries. Especially, they have a special agreement with ancillaries like UNICEF and the United Nations arm, which is based in South America. So the WHO and their ancillaries will pick up Covaxin uh, for administering people in those countries as well through UNICEF and through other United Nations entities. So this is a very big step. This is a very big step for development of India, and this is also a very big stamp of WHO and appreciation of the scientists, Indian doctors and scientists, and ICMR, that they have been able to develop, administer, and protect billions of people, not only India, but also outside India, against this dreaded virus. So, friends, if you have any comments, do write in, do send in your chat messages, or you can directly join our show by clicking on the link given below. And your using your camera and microphone, you will come live in our show. So, friends, I like to take a short break, not more than 1 minute, and I will join you back just after a minute. So don't go anywhere. I'll be back very soon with other interesting stories, and also a few more experts who are joining us. They don't really consider copying a big deal. or not copying other guys patent a big deal. So I think they have been violating the patent laws which are applicable across the world, and that is why Chinese products are imitating other products from rest of the world. If there is a patented technology which comes up in a country, the Chinese tend to pick it up and make copies of it, thousands and millions of copies of that. So they are basically violating all these norms. At the same time, they have been telling their people to, mass produce things in their homes. So their economy is mostly based on the building a supply chain without looking at the legal aspects, or without building a repetition based strategy for doing business. So most of their people who are involved in business are basically doing more supply chain related activities, and rather than building their own R&D centers, they don't have any facility to make sure that there are legal binding of various aspects of various aspects. And I think the one of the big reason is the talent and language. So while the Chinese can build, because they have been working on it for last 30-40 years, but they are also not very clear about the legal aspect. I think their knowledge of the legalities are a bit shaky there. At the same time, if you look at India, India is also equally populous country of 1.3, 1.4 billion people. Most of us follow the rule of law. Most of Indians have democratic values, and there are legal laws which are comparable to international laws. So if an Indian goes out of India and settle in any other country for forever or for few years, the Indian will never have any issue with regard to settle, because the laws are very much similar across the world. And the Indians are pretty used to following these laws. Indians are not known for copying other people's work and mass producing it, and so on and so forth. So I think there is a basic difference between how Chinese government function, how Chinese economy function, how the supply chain has been captured by reducing the price, by doing mass production, and not really following the legal norms. Whereas in India, there are a lot of English speaking people, which is international language. Uh, I mean, the UK cannot claim this language, but it's become an international trade language, and Indians know the language very well. Indians follow the law, and Indians are also having world class training institutes where people, these are globally acclaimed institutes which are churning out trained skilled labor with internationalized characteristic coming out and being built up. So I think all this is happening, and because of that, in years to come, India is sitting on a very important part to progress, only based on the talent pool. Because when we have the talent, it is one of the raw material of any production supply chain. And if you look at the Chinese supply chain, the people are just one of the resources which are available, and the resource quality is not being built up. Whereas in India, the resource quality is being nurtured, built up, trained, retrained, reskilled. At the same time, the supply chain methods, taxation, reforms are all part of this supply chain. So India is sitting on a very, very strong opportunity, which will make India a big talent pool of the world in years to come. And China will never be able to compete. It is destined to lose the battle for talent pool. And that is why it's as a sort of a war. So uh, China also realized this, and as a country, as a political outfit, they also realize this. And I think the time has come when there a war for talent will also increase in years to come. Chinese will start acquiring the right talent from the market, maybe from India, maybe from US, maybe from elsewhere, and they start putting those talent into their businesses, because I think without that the country cannot go, it will only slide downwards. So I think this is something which is going to start now, which is post pandemic. And I thought I will talk about this openly with you. If you have any comment, do send in your comments, and I will display your comment and answer that question straight away. If you want to join the meeting, use the link in the description below and join the meeting. I will come back with the program again after a short break with a new expert on our show. So don't go anywhere, friends. I'll be joining back with a new guest very soon.
Hello, welcome to the show. I'm Kanchan Verma, and we have Ritu Gupta, who is a seasoned PR professional. She has a vast experience in human management. So we'll be discussing very critical aspect of career guidance with her today. So let's welcome Ritu. Hello, Ritu. How are you doing today? I think the voice is not coming. We have to recheck why this is happening. Uh, I think you have to do with the mic. You have to configure with your mic something. Okay, okay. Mic is on. Okay. So let's just do it once more. Uh, let's play this break. Let me fix it. Hi, I'll just be with you after a short break. Let me fix the mic first, and then we'll discuss an interesting topic with you. So welcome back, and I hope that we will be shortly. So as you know that pandemic is already though we have come out from the phase of pandemic for some time, but still the effect of pandemic, it's still there, because now government and people are saying that there will be third wave of pandemic, and the most adversely affected people on this planet are children, because they don't go out if they are very younger, and if they are college going also, then it will be very difficult for them to really interact on daily basis as they used to do earlier. So it has become very, very difficult for children to really cope up with these changed scenario. And parents as well as teachers, schools, even they are really have been struggling how to really give most of these children, so that they'll not lose out with their the growing up seeing the growing up memories, because they had been living in houses for such a long time. So I think by now our guest, our expert is there. So let me just find out. Yes, can you hear me now today?
Yeah, Kanchan, how are you?
I'm fine. Welcome to the show, Ritu. And as I was discussing, that
Thank you.
most active people on this earth in this pandemic era is children. And as you know the first, I mean the last batch already out of the college, and they are looking for careers. Now, as I would also want to tell our viewers that Ritu is a seasoned PR professional. Apart from this, she has a lot of human management strategies she has worked upon. So, I would like to ask you, Ritu, that what are the careers options for children working out, or what are the career options is being provided by PR industry? Since you are in PR, so what a person can look into when it's targeting PR industry?
Yes, Kanchan. See, after doing the diploma or the degree course in public relations, the students can join any industry, any kind of industry in the media and customer care, customer relationship, public relations, and marketing. They can join in any of the departments, because most of the industries are welcoming public relation graduates these days, whether it's hospitality, it's the wellness, it is your PR, you know consultancies, the PR agencies, or the education industry, just name any industry. And of course the entertainment industry, it's always there. So they can start their career in any of the industry, and they have to do their internship first for some time. It can be for 3 months, it can be for 6 months, and after finishing their internship, they can be full-fledged public relation consultants or the public relations you know uh, managers, and they can work in any of the industry.
So, what kind of people really go and can opt for public relation career? Is there any specific? I was told that though they require these kind of degrees, but part of this, there's a kind of interest level or some bent of mind which is required to be a public relations professional.
Absolutely, there has to be an interest, because you should have two qualities. Number one, you should always be able to follow the deadline, and you have no working hours. Number two, you have to have outgoing personality, that you should love people, you should love interact people, you should love making new contacts. So this is what you need to have, that you should follow the deadline, and you have to work beyond your working hours. Number two, you should have an outgoing personality. And when I say outgoing personality, you should have that kind of a personality where you can be an icebreaker, where you can establish new contacts, make new contacts too. Because public relation exists, the public relation industry is all about contacts and media relations.
Okay, so once the any aspirant public relation is done with the degrees and all education is done, so what are the next step he should be taking, and what are those PR agencies she or he should target? One more thing, Ritu, I think your face is bit you have to lift your face little up because it's coming uh, half, yes, little up. Thank you. Yes, a little more.
Okay.
Yes.
So once the person is done with the required qualification for the public relation, he or she should do the internship. See, now the internship time period varies from companies to companies, organizations to organization. Some people 3 months of internship, they give you, sorry, they provide you 3 months of internship, whereas there are companies where they are looking out for interns for 6 months. So during the time of internship, when you're towards the end of your internship, the candidate should apply for the job. And right now, any industry in every industry is welcoming the public relation consultants, the public relation practitioners, the public relation professionals, because they all are thriving and surviving on contacts, on marketing, on media relations. So when I say marketing, public relations is not direct marketing, it's a subtle form of marketing. So you are part of the marketing family. So you should, again I'm saying, you should have an outgoing personality. Number two, you should be able to work beyond your working hours. Your job is not between 9 to 6, it's beyond that. So do your internship and then go for the full time, full fledged job. Number two, the most important thing, I will always suggest any person who's looking out to make career in public relations that they should start their career with PR agencies, because PR agencies nurture you. They provide you different kind of clients. For example, one of your client may be from the education industry, the second client can be a celebrity, the third client can be a political party. So you know how to handle, you learn to handle different kind of clients. So it's very important. So after a few years of serving in PR agencies, you can be on the other side of the table, that you can work with any of the organizations and head their PR department.
When any person who joins the PR industry, what is the whole career path in the PR agency? How we progress in any agency?
Sorry, I'm not able to listen to you. Can you please
Sorry.
repeat?
Yeah. So once he joins a public relation, what is his career path? How he progress in PR industry?
Okay, so once a person joins a PR industry, there is no stopping them. The sky is the limit. You know, you start as an intern, and then you can just go on and head the PR department. You can be the director of the PR department. You can just start your own work also, because the opportunities in our country, they are so vast right now. The government is giving so much of benefits to start the to various startups, that you can start your own PR agencies. And you know, right now the PR work is wide. There are so many things to be done in the PR work. I mean, if you're working for the celebrity management, when we use the word celebrity management, it is complete public relations for the entertainment industry. So all you need to know is, you have to be very clear that what line you want to get into, because you know, once you do your internship, you're very clear that you actually want to be in the education industry, you want to be in the corporate, and then you start working. The candidate should start working in that particular industry only, and then the sky is the limit, and just you can do anything. And also, let me tell you, I have personally seen people from journalism industry venturing into public relations industry, because public relations is all about media management.
What kind of uh, salary package PR industry offers?
Very frankly, the package is very, very good after certain stage. But initially, I'll say during the time of internship, what I've seen right now, people are getting 10 to 15,000 also, with very good multinational companies, with very good Indian companies also, big business houses. So it all depends what kind of company are we joining. Are you joining a very small company where people don't even provide you any kind of salary or your stipend, so you have to work free of charge, but you get to learn so many things. And then package is very good as per the present time. The package is good.
So, any last message you would tell to all people who are thinking about joining PR industry?
Yes, I will tell them that magic does not happen overnight. You have to really work hard to finish your qualification, the required qualification to get into public relations industry, and you should have the required qualification. Do your internship properly with full heart, and then join any of the company in the public relations department, where you have to create, manage, and establish the relationship with any kind of public. And also you need to have media management. And for all these things, you should love to meet people, you should love interacting with people, and you should love to speak out. So you need to have an outgoing personality. It's very important that if you want to be in public relations, you have to have outgoing personality, and you should have good command over your language, written and spoken, and you have good knowledge of understanding the things, the circumstances, the things happening around you. So you should have good command of the language, especially English language. You should have, because that's a global business language.
So, as usual, Ritu, it is so wonderful to talk to you and listen. And I think viewers must have about all the advices you have given, and somebody who wants to be a PR professional. I think this is advice which Ritu has just shared. So we will be meeting again next time with some other next interesting topic. Till then, bye bye and you take care.
Bye bye. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
So today we had a discussion, interesting discussion with Ritu Gupta, and I'll be back after a small break.
the consumer market for electronics is huge. In fact, we have reached a point where the consumer electronics market is backed by the finance companies, and you can go to any showroom, pick up a device of your choice, whether it is a mobile device or a super specialty device like a television, etc. Or even if you look at the microprocessor controlled washing machines and refrigerator, all of these things are in demand. A lot of demand is being created, and because of that, there is a huge consumer market for electronic goods, which India has emerged as, because everybody is using a mobile device, everybody has a need for a nice refrigerator, everybody needs a AC, and definitely visual appeal devices like uh, your TV, and as well as devices which are of different electronic devices of various kinds, because each person has a different need altogether. So considering this whole environment, while the market is thriving and competing, there is a lot of competition, but all of this is coming from overseas. There is a huge import duty that has to be paid for importing these items, and that is why there is a very strong need to get the local manufacturing uh, started in India for electronics and electrical items. Especially, it's a very big market. I mean, if you look at the consumer market here in India, it's one of the biggest in the world, where people are openly buying things and also discarding the old things. I mean, the technology is rapidly evolving, and they want to buy new things. And the market is so complex right now that there are exchange facilities, exchange benefits are being provided by the manufacturer. But none of these manufacturers are Indian manufacturers. And even if there is an Indian manufacturer, his role is limited to a grand assembler. All the equipments are being manufactured and imported into India, and these big brands are only assembling them. So there is, for somehow, the R&D uh, around electronics has been left behind in India. There is a very, very strong need to get the R&D rolled out, maybe initially with foreign partners to set up a R&D unit. There could be a outsourcing of R&D in India, where these foreign manufacturers can outsource, use the Indian talent which is readily available for outsourcing the research and development work, and then eventually get into production in India. So there is a need for an Indian R&D, Indian production houses, Indian technology, so that there is no need to spend foreign exchange in importing these things. Even the smallest items are getting imported today. Almost like 80% are imported today, and minuscule activities are being done in terms of production of these microchip or these processing units. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the air condition today, it consists of only three parts: the compressor, the coil system, and the controller. And these are all sealed, so if something goes wrong, all you have to do is get either of the three get replaced. So where are these coming from? They're all coming from different manufacturers outside India. So the brands like so many brands like Tata, Voltas, etc., they have become a assembler of different appliances. So this needs to be changed, and that is why this government has decided to help people who want to come up with manufacturing or research and development to start with. There are a lot of schemes available with the government of India to get into electronics and electrical startups, because this market is very big and we can't afford to spend our foreign exchange in importing things which are so simple. And it cannot happen that the Indians do not have capability. I mean, they have the capability, but somehow this very important aspect was left behind, and giving space to China to grow. And that is why they have the entire supply chain has gone there when it comes to electronic. In fact, all the major brands, including iPhone, is coming from China. So why we have to do that? I mean, Lenovo is coming from China. All these equipments are coming from China. So I think this is something that we need to fix. And I thought I will bring this news item for you to maybe think, we will revisit this whole issue in future, but you can think, and if you have any comments, you can share with me your ideas. We will definitely call you next time and bring you live on our show and understand why you think so. So make sure that you please share your ideas with us, and then we will have better conversation with you in future. Meanwhile, uh, I have come to the end of this show today, and I will like to say goodbye for today, only to catch you again tomorrow with new items and new information.